If you're a consultant managing multiple client calendars, one calendar mistake can make you look a lot less professional than you actually are. Maybe client A looks at your calendar and sees that 2 p.m. is open. So, they schedule a meeting. The problem is, client B already has you booked at 2 p.m. on a completely different calendar. Now, you're double booked. Or worse, you missed the meeting because you were looking at the wrong calendar. And from the client's perspective, the reason almost doesn't matter. You missed their meeting. If that meeting includes a CIO, a CEO, steering committee, business leader, or another senior executive, that can damage your credibility pretty quickly. Consultants are supposed to be trusted advisors, and many of us are responsible for coordinating meetings for some of the busiest and most important people in the client organization. If you cannot reliably manage your own availability, it raises an uncomfortable question. Can I trust you to manage everyone else's time? Clients may not say that out loud. They may simply stop renewing you. They may not give you the next project. Or if missed meetings becomes a pattern, they may ask you to be rolled off the engagement. That is why managing multiple client calendars is not just a productivity problem. It is a client service and reputation problem. And the reason it happens is surprisingly simple. A client calendar usually knows only what is happening inside that client's organization. So you might have your consulting firm calendar, client A's Outlook calendar, client B's Microsoft 365 calendar, and maybe a personal calendar that also affects your availability. Each calendar can be perfectly accurate on its own and still give someone the wrong answer about whether you are free. That is the key thing to understand. An empty space on client A's calendar does not necessarily mean you are free. It may only mean client A does not know what is happening on your other calendars. This gets harder as the number of clients grows. One consultant we spoke with typically works across 3 to 5 calendars at the same time. As his work became more meeting heavy, manually keeping each client calendar accurate became almost impossible. Another customer manages 9 different client email accounts and calendars. Before she found a better system, she would check every calendar individually and actually write down her availability times on post-it notes because she could not trust any single calendar to show the whole picture. So the real challenge is not having a lot of meetings. It is having several different calendars that all need to understand the same person's availability. The most obvious workaround is to manually copy your busy time between calendars. And it does work. It is just painful to maintain. A very real version of this can look like 2 computers sitting next to each other on Sunday night. One has the client calendar, one has the consulting calendar. You compare the week and manually create busy blocks in each system so one client does not schedule over the other. That can take about 2 hours every Sunday. Then Tuesday or Wednesday arrives, someone moves a meeting, an executive adds something, a steering committee changes the time, a client cancels. Suddenly those carefully created busy blocks are wrong. So you spend another 1 or 2 hours midweek fixing them. And that does not include all the smaller updates you catch throughout the week. The irony is that the consultants with the hardest calendar problems are often the people who can least afford to spend time doing this. A project manager, release manager, engagement lead, or senior advisor may already have a calendar booked from morning through evening. And they may also be responsible for coordinating meetings involving CIOs, CEOs, business unit leaders, steering committees, board prep teams. Those meetings are not always easy to schedule. Sometimes you need to look a month ahead to find a common opening. Sometimes several executive assistants have to negotiate which existing meetings can move. So spending several additional hours each week just keeping your own calendar straight is not a great use of anyone's time. Another common workaround sounds easier. Why not just forward all the invitations into one calendar? For some consultants, that may be tempting. but for many client environments, especially regulated ones, it can create a much bigger problem. First, there is confidentiality. Your clients need to know when you are unavailable. They usually do not need to know why. If I am meeting Client B, Client A should not see Client B's name. If I am giving someone confidential feedback, another client should not see that meeting title. If I have a medical appointment, all anyone needs to know is that I am busy. But there's another issue that is especially important for consultants working with banks, healthcare companies, aviation organizations, and other regulated clients. Some of those organizations do not allow employees or contractors to automatically forward email or calendar invitations outside of their environment. And they may have security tools that specifically monitor for that behavior. So something that feels like a harmless scheduling workaround, automatically forwarding every client invitation to your consulting account, could actually violate the client's security or compliance policy. That is obviously the opposite of what a trusted advisor wants to do. We heard this issue from a consultant working across healthcare and aviation clients. Those organizations wanted consultants working inside client-owned systems because of the sensitivity of the information involved. At one aviation client, he needed to explain the CalendarBridge connection to the IT director before it could be authorized. Once the IT director understood what it was doing, helping share availability without unnecessarily exposing confidential information, he was comfortable with the setup. So, the goal is not move all of my client information into one place. The goal is let the right calendars know when I am busy without exposing information they should not see. And if a client requires approval before connecting a calendar, CalendarBridge has information that can be shared with IT or security teams so they can understand the setup and decide whether to approve it. For a regulated client, that distinction matters. This is where client calendar sync becomes useful. And the concept is much simpler than it sounds. You keep using the calendars you already have. Client A stays in Outlook. Your consulting firm stays in Google Calendar. Client B stays in their Microsoft environment. You do not move everything into a brand new calendar. Instead, CalendarBridge connects the calendars that need to know about your availability. Then you make 3 basic decisions. Connect the calendars that matter. That might be your consulting calendar, Client A, Client B, and your personal calendar if personal commitments should block work time. Step 2. Decide where your busy time should appear. If Client A books you from 2 to 3, Client B's calendar can also know that you are unavailable then. Step 3. Decide what information gets shown. In many consulting situations, you may want the other calendars to see only busy, not the client name, not the meeting title, not the attendees, just the information needed to prevent another booking. This is the part that eliminates most of the manual work. If the original meeting moves, your availability can move with it. If it is canceled, that time can become available again. You are no longer rebuilding the week by hand every Sunday and then repairing it again a few days later. CalendarBridge does not replace Google Calendar or Outlook. Those remain the calendars you and your clients already use. It simply helps them maintain a more accurate view of your availability. The before and after is pretty dramatic. Before, a client sees an open hour. They book it. You discover later that another client already has you. Now you are rescheduling, apologizing, or hoping you notice the conflict before the meeting starts. Meanwhile, you are spending hours each week manually creating and maintaining busy blocks. After, a meeting gets scheduled on one connected calendar. the calendars that need to know about it can show you as unavailable. The confidential details stay where they belong. And when the meeting changes, your availability changes with it. That means fewer double bookings, fewer missed meetings, several hours a week back, less manual calendar maintenance, less unnecessary back and forth with clients and executive assistants. But the biggest benefit for consultants may be harder to measure. It is trust. Your clients can rely on the availability they see. You show up when you are supposed to be. You stop asking senior client leaders to accommodate conflicts that should have been caught earlier. And when you are responsible for coordinating important meetings, you look like someone who can be trusted with important people's time. That protects your reputation. It protects your consulting firm's brand. And it removes one of those small sources of friction that can quietly affect whether a client wants to keep working with you. Because managing multiple client calendars is not really about becoming better at calendars. It is about being dependable. And when you are a trusted advisor, dependability is part of what a client is paying for.